This video is without prejudice. Greetings everyone. Today I'm going to speak to you about WorkSafe New Brunswick and how they are ignoring doctors, forcing people back to work when they're not healed. Essentially, they are showing gross, wanton, and reckless disregard for our personal safety, uh, injured workers' personal safety. Now, I see that there's a doctor. He came out yesterday, and my video, my first video, is on MembershipOnline.com. They ran my story, and you can see it there. But the doctor is criticizing WorkSafe, and you can watch their video. I'm not going to get into it. You can watch the video, but essentially he's saying that WorkSafe just blatantly ignores his recommendations. I mean, this gentleman in the video, they cut off his medication, and he's not able to work. And they, on top of that, all they don't believe him. So WorkSafe just basically decides who and where they wish to pay, essentially. They will tell you that they look for objective information, and subjective information doesn't matter. That is against Section 15 of the Charter. We have the right to be treated equally under the law, regardless of our physical disability. So they're not allowed to say that, oh, you don't have an x-ray that shows a broken bone, so you've got to go to work even though you're in extreme chronic pain. You have to go to work because you can't show us anything objective. Your pain is subjective. Well, if they've done that to you, they have violated your constitutional right. If you look at our Constitution, Section 15 reads as follows. Every individual is equal before and under the law and has the right to the equal protection and equal benefit of the law without discrimination and, in particular, without discrimination based on race, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, sex, age, or mental or physical disability. So when WorkSafe says that you don't have anything objective, that what they look for is objective findings, and your pain, the suffering that you're having, is subjective, which doesn't matter to them, and you have to go to work. They are violating the equal rights part of our charter, Section 15, and the case law that backs it. There's a case, and I quoted it in my previous video, where a judge has claimed, or has ruled rather, that chronic pain is equal to other workplace injuries. So they're not allowed to differentiate between chronic pain and other workplace injuries. They have to treat them one and the same. And WorkSafe hasn't been doing that, and they haven't been doing it for at least 10 years that I know of, because that's when this case came out, was 10 years ago. So they are violating the charter. They are breaking the law. They are showing wanton and reckless disregard for your personal safety. Now, WorkSafe, when they tell you that, oh, you have to go here or you have to do this, and you say, oh, I'm not able to, I have a personal tragedy that happened, I'm not able to go, they still look at you and tell you that they'll cut you off. There's a lady that I was in the Grand Bay Rehabilitation Center with, and I'm not going to mention any names, of course, but her son was killed in a motorcycle accident, and WorkSafe literally told her that she had to go for her appointment at the rehabilitation center, even though her son had been killed, and she had to go or they were going to cut her off. Now that in itself is wanton and reckless disregard for the lives or safety of other persons. Now, hypothetically speaking, what would have happened if she had went to the center and couldn't handle the grief and then ended up injuring herself, or maybe even going as far as to commit suicide? Uh, that would have been a result of what WorkSafe had done to her. WorkSafe doesn't realize that they sit behind desks and they tell people that, oh, your case is invalid, or you don't have the evidence to show what you're saying. Well, they need to stop, and they need to treat you like a person, like a human being, and they have to realize that pain isn't necessarily always on paper. We have a nervous system. Chronic pain is after you've healed. Your nerves still have you in a state of pain because they still think something's wrong. They're receiving the wrong messages. There's no way that I've been able to get them to stop this, to not have these messages. As soon as we figure this out, then we'll have a cure for chronic pain. And when that day happens, then I'll do a dance. But until that day, WorkSafe New Brunswick has to acknowledge and um, they have to understand that you're a human being who's suffering and you need medical assistance in order to have a minimum quality of life. And that's what the doctor on CBC says. The medications that they cut his patient off of were necessary for his recovery, his minimum quality of life, and they just cut him off. No, secretary. Oh, nothing here shows he should need medication. I'll just no more medication for Mr. Roulette. So in doing so, it's blatant, wantless, and reckless disregard for the lives or safety of other persons. When that secretary cut off his medication, she literally showed disregard for his personal safety and his life. His life. There's no other way around it. That's what happened here. And people say, "Oh, I'm not a lawyer. I can't understand this." If you have a grade 12 education and a basic comprehension level, you should be able to understand this. If you can't, then I suggest that you find some sort of uh, assistance program to help you with your literature. And it's not that I'm not being cute or candid in any way, shape, or form, but it's pretty straightforward. Shows wanton or reckless disregard for the lives or safety of other persons. You don't need to be a lawyer to understand that. So that being said, if you don't need to be a lawyer to understand that, well, WorkSafe New Brunswick should understand that. But they feel that they're above the law, and they feel that they are the large government entity that can push the people around and bully the people and intimidate the people. That's another thing. Intimidation. WorkSafe New Brunswick uses intimidation at every chance they get. I myself have had a scenario where my case manager would yell at me on the phone. He'd speak over me, try and cut me off, and wouldn't let me talk. And I, for about 8 months, tried to get a new case manager, and then I was told that under no circumstances could I have one. That they didn't change case managers. And I do have a new one now, but that's pretty much another video to explain how that happened. But either way, I was told that they don't give other case managers, that this is it. So I told my doctor about it, and my doctor spoke with him on my case for an hour on the phone, or 45 minutes, I believe, on the phone one afternoon. And he did the same thing to my doctor. He treated my doctor the same way that he treated me. So I have a medical professional who's experienced the way that WorkSafe has treated me, and that is intimidation. You're not allowed to raise your voice. You're not allowed to roar at people. You can't belittle them in any way, shape, or form. This is what our legal system is. Section 423 of the Criminal Code says everyone is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term of not more than 5 years, or is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction, who wrongfully and without lawful authority, for the purpose of compelling another person to abstain from doing anything that he or she has a lawful right to do, or to do anything that he or she has a lawful right to abstain from doing. A. Uses violence or threats of violence to that person to or his or her spouse or common law partner or children, or injures his or her property. B. And this is the one that applies to WorkSafe. Intimidates or attempts to intimidate that person or a relative of that person by threats that in Canada or elsewhere violence or other injury will be done to, or punishment inflicted on him or her or a relative of his or hers, or that property of any of them will be damaged. WorkSafe case managers raising their voice at you is intimidation. That's under this section. They're attempting to intimidate you, and they're doing a really good job of intimidating the public, because the public is in fear of the government uh, as it currently sits, and that's the problem that's going on. The bureaucrat gets to sit on the other end of the phone and tell you that you need to do this, you need to do that, and if you disagree with what they have to say, in my experience, my case manager would raise his voice and talk over me and yell on the phone. in order to be able to try and get his points across. Well, that is illegal. And I have a witness, as I said, I have a witness. My doctor had spoken to him on the phone at dinner time, and my case manager did the same thing with my doctor. And it seemed like he had certain trigger points. If you told him that he wasn't a doctor, that's where he really lost it. So he sits there with the medical reports and all this information that he may or may not understand, and they make the decision based on their pocketbook. This isn't about getting you the help you need. This isn't about getting you ready to go back to work. Um, there's probably a good percentage of people that are in the workforce with chronic pain, even with objective findings, as WorkSafe we're calling it, but are still forced to work by WorkSafe, and they're not able to do so. And at most of the time, what it does is it leads to further injury, new injuries arriving or appearing in your body because other part of your body has to compensate for your injury, and it can even lead to the injury of somebody else. So that goes back to the criminal negligence, where they're negligent in putting you back to work and in doing all that. That's under Section 221. But they told you, or if they told you that your pain is subjective, you have to work, or we're going to cut you off, they are threatening punishment. It's punishment. You have to do what we say because we're the big bad organization, and you have to do this because we're the ones holding all the cards and we have all the power, and you don't have any, and you need to go to work. So that we don't have to pay you, we can get you off our pocketbook, and our numbers at the end of the year look good. So if you've been forced back to work, or you've had a less than pleasant experience with WorkSafe New Brunswick, there's a very good possibility that you are a victim of criminal negligence, possibly criminal negligence causing bodily harm, depending on your scenario, as well as you may be a victim of intimidation. Both are violations under the Criminal Code of Canada, one under Section 219 through 221 is criminal negligence, and then 423 for intimidation. WorkSafe has demonstrated in my case on a number of occasions intimidation tactics. It wasn't until I sent them a letter asking them why I wasn't receiving anything in writing that I started getting things in writing. It took about 6 months into my claim before I got anything in writing. This was done, I believe, so that they could tell me what they wanted to tell me over the phone and expect me to accept it, because I didn't have anything in writing. I didn't have anything at the time to back it up. I was still new to all this, and I didn't expect for a Crown Corporation to be so criminal. www.takeyourrightsforall.com has been created so that I can give the people of Canada the information that they need to be able to take their rights. You'll find links here to my YouTube videos, Charter of Rights and Freedoms. If you click it, it'll bring it up. I'm not going to click it at the moment. Criminal Code of Canada and the case law search engine, as well as our forums. And then like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. So what we have here is a resource for people to use. And I've put a mission statement very clearly. Our mission is to bring government criminals to justice for violations of the criminal code against the people. We will fight tyranny and corruption wherever it exists in our country using the greatest weapon of all, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And then you may or may not have seen this. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. When the government fears the people, there's liberty. It is due time that we, the people, give the government something to fear. And essentially that puts it in a nutshell. People get cut off, people get bullied, pushed around by WorkSafe, and it's done in fear. WorkSafe knows that you're afraid that you'll get cut off, or that you basically won't have any financials. And they're using that fear in order to be able to manipulate and force you back to work, even though that you're not able to. And for that matter, all we would need to do is look at the records of the Grand Bay Rehabilitation Center and to see how many people have came back to that center for treatment who were there previously for treatment went back to work and either further injured themselves or injured themselves in a new way because of compensating muscles, it's very easy to see the people that are affected by WorkSafe mandating them and intimidating them back to work before they're ready, ignoring what their doctors are saying and saying you can work. Um, I was also down at the Grand Bay Center. There was a lady who had 7 ruptured discs, herniated discs in her back, and they were treating it as a soft tissue injury at the center. Um, there's a number of things that go on there, and in my opinion, those people that are at the center, the people that give WorkSafe the information to be able to intimidate you and dictate you back to work, even though you may or may not be ready, they're accessories in all of this. Now, I'm not sure how far the reach of the legal system will go, uh, but if there's a crime and there's an accessory, the accessories usually are charged as well. Uh, it could be a getaway driver. It could be. It doesn't really matter. It could be the guy who sold you the gun that you used to commit a crime. These people would be accessories as well at the Grand Bay Center because they're the ones that give the information, and they're the ones that say, oh, we support a gradual return or a transitional return, or we support light duty. Um, when I left the center, they were telling me that I could go back to work and do my job as it was pre-accident, and that's just not a possibility at all. So they have very high expectations of what you should do when you're there. They put you through a rigorous program, and part of the rigorous program, and they'll say that, oh, we have professionals with you at all times, or they're, to watch you, and that's absolute bull. You see a physiotherapist once a day. You see your OT maybe once a week. I mean, you see them going through the hallway, you see them walking through the hallway, that's fine. But to have a one-on-one with them, it just doesn't happen. The physiotherapist, I got 10 minutes a day. That's not including the heat that I was having put on, or ice or other treatment, but that's just the actual contact with the physiotherapist. So, in sending you back to work prematurely before you're healed so that they have to pay less benefits, WorkSafe New Brunswick has committed crimes against the people, violations of the criminal code. We the people need to bring them to justice. Although I'm trying the best that I can, I'm not able to be 100% successful in this without the help of my fellow injured workers. So at this point, I'm asking that everybody who has had um, malicious dealings with WorkSafe, we'll call it malicious, where they've intimidated you and forced you to do things that you weren't able to do, only risking your personal safety. I ask that you go to your local police department and file a report. Give them your information. Uh, what I did was I got my information from my doctor, my file that my doctor has, and I've given that to the police as evidence as well as case law. So your evidence is in your medical records, how they treated you and what your doctor said. Please go to your police department and file a report. We need to bring WorkSafe New Brunswick to justice. They've been getting away with this for way too long. It is due time that we the people give the government something to fear. Thank you. Good day.